Hi guys, we love you. Um, this is a real case of crime. It happened in England. Alan Hobbs. He was a drifter and did not have no fixed abode. And he committed an appalling triple murder. No one really knows why he did it. But this is the story over a 24-hour period. Alan Hobbs hacked to death 3 friends. And one of these friends was a woman that he had known for a lot of years. And he claims that he had just had sex with her. The bodies of the victims lay undiscovered for over a week. Alan states that he was coming down from drugs and alcohol binge, and that may be why he went on a killing spree. Alan did make his plea of guilty and he got 3 life sentences in the Reading Crown Court. Now, Reading is in Berkshire, England, and Reading is spelled Reading. Alan had gone to Miss Harvey's home, and she's aged 30, and her home was in Slough in Berkshire. That's near London. They made love, and then he said they began to argue. So Alan hacked her with a chisel. Apparently, later on, Miss Harvey's boyfriend also lived at the address, the bedsitters. It's a bed set, like one room. And his name was Ian Brown, and he was 36 years old, and he was a painter. He was divorced with 2 children. As he came home, he then was attacked with an axe, but Alan didn't kill him. But he did tie him up and kept him a prisoner until the following day. Alan fell asleep with Miss Harvey's body close to him, and Ian's body was also on the bed, and he was gagged and tied up. But Alan did say he had a good night's sleep. He had passed out, I guess. The next day, Alan got up and made Ian a cup of tea. He said he was planning on leaving. He was leaving. But just as his plan on leaving, another ex-boyfriend of Miss Harvey came to the home, Peter Smith, who also lived in Slough in Berkshire, England. So he attacked him with an axe and tied him up and put him on the bed as well. Then he decided he will have to kill them both as well. He hacked them both in the head with such force. Alan then left and took Mr. Smith's cash card, and this was his own undoing. And then Alan went to his sister's home in Basingstoke. Miss Harvey and Mr. Smith's family reported them missing after a week, just after a week. Excuse me. And the police went there to do a welfare check, and it was just going to be a routine check, so they thought. They said they saw a terrible scene, intense smell, and flies. I got a cough. All had been hacked to death, and one of the guys was even tied to a bicycle. Tied up to a bicycle. Hmm. Police mount a huge, big search and traced down Alan Hobbs when he had taken out £500 from Mr. Smith's account. He was later arrested 2 weeks after the killings. These guys had all been friends. All three of them were all friends. Um, I think the police said that Alan was a jealous kind, and jealousy because he liked Miss Harvey, and he said he only see her boyfriend a few times, but maybe in his head, when he comes to visit, he'll be the only man in her life. And I would say that was a yes. He was a very jealous person and mentally ill. Alan refused to have psychiatric tests and stuff like that because the police wanted to find out a little bit more about him. What was the motive for these killings? What was in his mind? He's on drugs. He's drunk. He's drunk too much alcohol. But the next morning, you know, he should have woke up a bit. But as two people came back to the house, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, we'll just tell you a little bit about Alan Hobbs. A little about what I know about him. And as I can speak the truth and give you the facts on this case, as this Alan is my cousin. His mother is my dad's sister. Now, I wasn't going to do this case, but I thought I just might, because a lot of people do know killers in a family and how abuse can kill. Now, his mother did abuse him. I mean, we're going back many years now, in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. And when I was a young kid, I used to go up there and babysit. So I've known him since, all my life, really. So I used to go up to babysit. Well, she messed around because that's all I know. She cheated on her husband and she did abuse her kids. But in them days, that was normal, to abuse your kids like that. And kids couldn't get the help they can now. My God, if this man had only got some decent help when he was a kid, he was deemed the evil child. He's out of control. He's like the bad seed. And he was doing naughty things like kids do. When kids start killing little animals or doing stuff like that, we know that they're going to grow up to be an abuser, or they're going to be murderers. They're going to murder people, or they're going to beat up women and they're going to do all kinds of stuff. Well, this is how it happened to him. So he was put away, he was abused. He didn't like his mother. She left them. She left the kids with her husband, and he was a very nice guy. Her husband was a nice man, and but she did all the caring for the kids. So, and I can say that all three of her kids are some way mentally ill, abused, and um, mentally ill. They needed help. They needed some treatment. And, you know, as he, when he went after the murders, he went to his sister's house. I won't say their names. Went to his sister's house because I can remember her telling me. Uh, he told her what he had done, and she didn't know what to do. Actually, she didn't even know whether to believe him or not. She thought he was high on drugs, drunk, telling a story. She wasn't sure whether he's telling the truth. And she thought, oh my God. So he lay low with her for a few days and talked to her. And he told her what he had done. And a few weeks later, they came a knocking and found him and arrested him for 3 counts of murder. So he does tell the police he was abused at 11 years old. Alan would mess with his sister. Um, I don't know if you call it rape, stuff like that. He abused his sister, used to beat her up, and she was abused. So these are the kind of things that was going on in his life when he was very young. But needless to say, not every kid becomes a murderer. But once you get to drinking and once you get on the drugs and you're homeless and you're mentally ill, it becomes a problem if you do not get treated for it. So I'll just tell you another story. My brother's ex-girlfriend, he had 2 children with her. And so she invited Alan over to her house and they liked each other because she really didn't know much about him, right? And I didn't even know she was seeing him because if I did, I would have said, stay the hell away from him. He's no good. He'll beat you up. He's an abusive man. Okay? And he was. But anyway, I guess she let him stay at the house. And she says, I got to go to the store. And my brother's kid was only about a year old or so at that time. And she says, well, can you watch him? Watch him while I go to the shops, which was only like down the road, like 10 minutes away. And I guess he said, sure, whatever. And, you know, babies cry, don't they? Babies cry. Well, when she came back, she found her child beaten in the face, split lip, black eye, black and blue in the face. And she, well, she didn't know what to do, and she couldn't get out the house at first. She couldn't get out the house at first because he's threatening her because he knows what he's done. See, it's a pattern, isn't it? So she eventually gets hold of my brother, and my brother goes on the hunt for this man. And believe me, if my brother had found him, my brother might be in prison now. because there would have been no stopping my brother. He would have beat the shit out of him, and he probably would have killed him, because that's his son. You just beat a 1-year-old baby in the face. Well, that goes on. And so this was the type of man he was. If you met this guy, stay clear of him. He got a bad temper. Well, in his life, he was 32 years old at this time. But before, he had a girlfriend and had a baby with, and I won't give his name, but you know what? His son is a lovely man, nothing like his dad. He had a good mother, and he has no mental illness, and he's turned out just fine. So praise the Lord for that. That he grew up to be a successful person in the world and loves kids and would never touch them or nothing. He's just a wonderful man. So I guess that's one good thing came out of it. He had a respectful son that turned out great. But that's not thanks to him. That was no thanks to him. But they do say mental illness runs in the family, and they could turn out like you. I mean, you could try your hardest to bring up a kid the best way, but as we know, people do kill. So, Alan was um, considered for parole when he was sentenced, and they said, we consider parole after 20 years because, as you know, this happened years ago, and this is in England, and life means 15 years in England. Life don't mean life in England. Well, it's probably totally different now, but back in them days, he had 3 life sentences of 15 years apiece. And after 20 years, they could think about parole. But as he went into the prison system, he was on suicide watch. And of course, he was straightening up a little bit, and I guess he was getting medication to calm his mood swings and stuff like that. And then he refused all visitors for many a year. He didn't want nobody to visit him because he knew he was a bad person. And he's going to punish himself for it. He don't deserve anybody to come and visit him. But anyway, he refused his mother to come and visit for lots of years. And then she did write to him. She did write to him, but I really don't know what his mother had to say to him. I really don't know if it was worth the paper it was written on. But that's just my opinion, because she's my aunt, and I knew how she was back then. She's a total different person now. She met a nice man, and she's been married for 30-some years now, and in fact, she's married to an American. And he lives in England with her and has done for most of that time. He comes from California. But they had no kids together, of course. They didn't have no kids together. And he has no children from anybody else. So, you know, these murderers and these abused kids, you know, sometimes this is why we say if you see a kid being abused and everything, we need to step in somehow. But as we know, kids that are abused they don't have room in the system for them. And if you get older, you get more neglected from the system. You're too old to help. You know, that's the attitude. But as he serves his time, it won't be long until he's going to be released, because he's only a little bit younger than I am. And so he's about 10 years younger than I am. So his day's coming to be released. And his son does not have nothing to do with him. He may have wrote him a few times, but other than that, I think he doesn't want to be associated with his father. And plus, he has a different name. He has a completely different name to his father. And so that's how that is. And so I hope you like this little crime story. It's a bit more personal to me than anybody. But I just can't believe that he would take an axe and axe them, hacks them to death because for no reason. Really, it was for no reason. But it was something she said and something she done that set him off. Like I said, they had done drugs and drank and had sex quite a few times. But what made him do it this time? He's not changed. He was the same old person. Now his brother, he's got another brother. Actually, his brother looked just like my brother, actually. I would think they were cousins, but you'd think they were brothers. So they were more on my dad's side of the family. And I used to always say that to him. I was like, oh my God, if I didn't know any better, I would think you were my brother. But anyway, his brother ran away. Well, he was old enough to run away. He didn't really run away, but what he did was he ran from the family. He never talked to his sister. His sister didn't know where he was. His dad didn't know where he was, and he left and changed his name. He moved across the country and nobody knew for 20 years where he was. And then he changed his name back to his original name, and that's kind of how people got a hold of him, because people were looking. I was looking. His sister was looking. His dad died. Nobody could get a hold of him. He just didn't contact nobody. He said, I'm so ashamed to be in this family. He said, to have the family name. He said, I'm just so ashamed of my brother. I don't want nothing else to do with him, with anybody right now. But now he's healed, and he said, look at the time I've wasted. Look at the time I've missed. Everybody's grown up and got older. He says, because I decided to go and not talk to anybody. And he never spoke to his mother neither. He had one word to say to her. But now he has spoken to his mother and visited her. But you know what? There's not going to be no love lost there. But you know what I mean? When you get older, I think you have, you just get older, don't you? And your feelings start changing. You forget about the past. You've grown up. You're more mature. And you're over it. You're over it. So that's how that story goes. And so he will be released soon. Hopefully a changed man. Hopefully he's had treatment. But you know what? Once you get out, you start taking them drugs and drinking again. You know, that's be like, it only takes one time. But we'll see. I'm not planning on speaking to him anytime soon. I just thought I'd share my story because this is why I'm kind of interested in crime. You know, what makes a person tick. And even if you don't know these people, you can see where it leads up to with the abuse and the yelling and the constant nagging and things like that. it's going to get to you, and you don't know how a person is going to react to this after a while. You know, some people can deal with it, some people can't. And all it takes sometimes is just a few lines, a few words, and that sets them off. It's just, what is that that sets them off? What's the triggers? Because there are triggers. And in the Chris Watts case, all it could have been was, I'm leaving you and you're never seeing the kids again. That's all it could have took. I'm just saying, that might not have happened, but I'm just saying, what did they both say to each other that made this happen? Because we know that something was said. Something was said. Or, like we all think as well, is they were already dead in the beds and she went in to check on them. I mean, we don't know, but something made him do it. So anyway, guys, we can discuss this video if you like and share your thoughts and have a nice discussion about maybe you have somebody that you know in the family that you're ashamed of. Don't really want to talk about it, but sometimes it's good to share, because I think that a lot of us know somebody, a friend of a friend or a relative, that's been in this situation. Comment and discuss this video. Thanks.